Hi, I'm Brian Jackson, editor at itbusiness.ca, and here I have Keon Versad, the managing director of Eval-Source, joining me for a hangout session today. Welcome, Keon.
Hi, Brian. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and Keon is also a member of our community bloggers, aren't you?
Yes, yes. So I
Yeah.
participate frequently.
Yeah, it was great to have your blog post, and so you do a lot of writing for us, but you've also done a bigger writing, a more extensive writing project with this Eval-Source ERP Cloud and SaaS Buyer's Guide. So, that's what we're talking about today. And I wonder, with your Buyer's Guide, why did you choose to specifically focus on this topic of cloud or SaaS ERP solutions? I mean, why not on-premise solutions?
Well, this is the third version of our ERP guide. So we've been doing this for quite a long time. With cloud, we've seen with mainly the on-premise or pointed solution. Sorry, we've seen the SaaS market really blow up. Um, and within the ERP market, SaaS has been a consistently trending topic. So people are including software as a service, ERP solutions in their evaluation more frequently now than ever before. So this is a great topic to keep everyone educated on SaaS, as well as it's a very high level uh, of interest in the SaaS for ERP, because traditionally SaaS has been more of a on-premise type of solution, but we've seen a lot more of SMBs get into this market, mainly because the lower point of entry for these systems. So SaaS and cloud ERP have really been getting more popular within that range of customers, as well as the enterprise level of organizations.
Okay, makes sense. I mean, write about what is popular and what people are actually buying at the moment or looking to buy in this case. So, I read the report, of course, and you addressed the fact that just understanding how software vendors categorize ERP systems can help simplify the buying process. And I think this is something that those of us in the industry just come to understand sort of intuitively. But for those who are coming from an outsider's perspective, maybe this is their first time considering an ERP solution, or they haven't done it in a long time. And it's sort of confusing, actually, how vendors categorize their software. So explain that to me. I mean, what should a company know about this categorization?
Well, to be honest with you, categorization can make or break an evaluation in terms of ending up with a solution that really does not fit your exact needs. And it's such a big component within the evaluation process. And we really stress that to any company looking at an ERP system. So essentially, the way ERP is categorized, they're basically two categories, or well, obviously under the two large categories, they're sub verticals, but ERP vendors really develop their solutions based on their specialization. When you look at the categorization, it's essentially ERP for services or ERP for manufacturing. And under the manufacturing wing, then you have vendors that are process, discrete, mixed mode. Under services, you have a lot of verticals like nonprofit, healthcare, and mining, for example. Now, if a company that is mainly a service-based company starts evaluating 5 vendors or 4 vendors, and 3 out of the 4 vendors are mainly manufacturing vendors for ERP that have manufacturing heavy modules, well, I mean, when they get down to the last 2 or 3, it could skew the evaluation, and they can end up with a vendor that has a more specialization in a different sub vertical than what they really really went after. So that's why we really stress that categorization is a very big component in just the research aspect of looking at new ERP systems.
Yeah, I think that's just a good point to get out there right at the high level is, if you're in manufacturing, look at the ERP systems in the manufacturing base. I mean, companies make software specifically for your vertical, so you don't have to waste your time like just sort of pandering about like considering this sort of system and that sort of system. And it's worth mentioning too. There's all sorts of these partners like managed service providers that are VARs that will take an ERP system that's made by like SAP or Microsoft, SAP rather, and they'll adapt it to a vertical. So that is something to look out for too.
Absolutely, you see that with the mainly, as you mentioned, in the Microsoft community of solution providers. The way they work is they have the Microsoft Dynamics version, and then one of their partners will actually go develop a specific solution set or feature sets for a very specific vertical. And a lot of ERPs, because there's so many ERPs on the market right now, or ERP vendors, sorry, on the market that especially they really create their tool for specific verticals. And so a lot of companies get wrapped up in, the particular, just at the research level of looking at a vendor, they have to understand that categorization.
Mm-hmm. So that's good to understand at the high level. But then once you have that part figured out, so you at least know what vertical you're looking in, you know what sort of software you need. Now you go take it to the next level where you're actually looking at the company level. So you say, I'm in this industry, I'm in this vertical, that's easy. But what does my company need from the software? You have like a really specific scoring system that identifies, how this works. And I don't want you to like get into it, the nitty-gritty of like how your scoring system works with awarding points here and there. But you can tell me a bit at a higher level, at least, about how a company identifies what it needs from the software and evaluates the ERP based on that.
Right. So, I mean, there's a point where a company gets to where there's a point where an organization really is. The manual processes within the organization are getting too cumbersome. The resources, each department has a very hard time in getting best practices in their business processes. So essentially, the ERP is to automate and drive efficiency. When a company is at the point and they start to look at an ERP, there are a couple things that we really suggest, and right off the bat, and this is it's a very small exercise, but you'd be surprised how many companies or organizations don't really understand or actually do it. And the first step is to really understand your resources and how they operate and how they contribute to the business. When I say resources, I mean the specific departments like the financials, HR, payroll, CRM, and then you can go into, if you have manufacturing, or if you go into higher education, you have maybe grant management or something like that. But all those resources, they all work together to really help the business run, and they all have individual requirements. So the first step is to really understand, the how each resource operates and contributes to the entire organization. From there, you're going to actually go deeper into each department, and usually you go to the subject matter experts or the business leaders within that department, and they actually put together their needs, identify their needs within the specific verticals. And the reason we structure or suggest this way is because the modules within an ERP and the way vendors sell their ERP is module based. They want to make sure that every one of your needs are being serviced or being provided, their solutions provided within each module that they supply that they have, and that relates to your independent departments. And number three, the biggest part of requirements and getting ready and looking at the ERP when you're starting the evaluation is prioritization of those requirements. That is probably one of the biggest mistakes companies make is gathering all the requirements that they need, but not prioritizing which are most needed, which affect the company the most, and from there, that's how they build a proper requirements table to really go forward and start the evaluation or get through the evaluation so the vendor understands their needs successfully.
Okay, and when we talk about the evaluation process for buying this ERP software, we're talking about really a process the IT department is going through, but I wonder if you can give advice on how can executives or even other departments outside of the IT department, how can they get involved in the process with buying an ERP?
Yeah, well, one of the I mean, when we help companies evaluate enterprise software, we include subject matter experts, business unit leaders. It's a prerequisite for us to include the people that are really in charge of a lot of the business activities of the organization, because they know day in, day out the processes that are automated. So if there is a subject matter expert or a business leader, what we really suggest to them is to really communicate with IT that they need to be involved in this process, that they will be a very significant component in the evaluation process, and their input is very important in determining the requirements of the organization. And I think that's where that conversation needs to start. And what we're seeing a lot now is the CFOs actually assuming a lot of the roles of the evaluation. IT is still a major component there, but the CFO is actually bringing in the business leaders and whatnot. So, I mean, that's in some organizations, but essentially it is to really communicate that this is a collective process within the company, that the business side and the IT side will be affected, and it's something that the IT and business needs need to be represented in the evaluation.
Mm-hmm. Now, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. So right in the name there, you have enterprise. But in your report, you say that SMBs, small businesses, are actually being better served by ERP vendors at this point. So, at one point, as a smaller to mid-sized business, should I be considering an ERP?
Well, I mean, the ERP really addresses automation, efficiency, and best practices. Those are the end results that really a company needs to get out of an ERP system. So you're right. When these systems were built, they were built for large enterprise organizations, and at that time, they were the only companies that could really afford a system like this. With the emergence of the SaaS and cloud technology, vendors have been able to deliver smaller ERP systems, not only just in functionality, but also in price point. So it's been easier for SMBs to get onto to an ERP. Now, when an SMB really reaches a point that they need to automate a process, they need better efficiencies, incorporate best practices, that's when they can really start looking at a system. to really bring in and tie the entire organization together.
And what is it that ERP vendors are doing better these days to cater to small businesses?
One, they're making a lot of their solutions more diversified, a company can pick and choose the modules, pick and choose the feature sets. So it's not just what you buy you have to utilize. It's more customized delivery. So a company can get modules that are and feature sets that are catered more towards their organization, ones that they can utilize better. So I think that's how a lot of the vendors are really addressing that. Not every company is exactly the same as a large enterprise. Every company runs, differently, and they need all different feature sets and customization.
Yeah, that makes sense. So last question for you today, Keon, and I think it might be obvious to us, but maybe not to everyone. And is there one leading ERP vendor, and especially when we're talking about cloud and SaaS, if those are the types of solutions that you really decided you're considering, is there one vendor that people should look at first, or is the field just more dynamic than that, and there's no easy go-to answer?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's the ERP vendor market. The landscape has grown considerably. We're constantly doing analyst briefings with new ERP vendors on a weekly basis, so there's not one particular vendor that we incorporate in all of the solutions, or we suggest that, or we recommend that should be in all evaluations. Now, there are vendors that have been on the market for a longer time. Obviously, the larger, SAP and vendors like Epicor, Unit4, they've been around for a very, very long time. But we actually don't. There's not one particular leader of ERP. It's too vast of a software landscape to say that. There's too many vendors that specialize in verticals, and it's just too broad of a software vertical to really say that one vendor is particularly a leader in that space.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. You want a market that's more dynamic and is not dominated by one player, because that sort of competition just creates a good field where there's going to be more niches, and it's more likely that your company will find a software vendor that will meet its needs. And if there's fierce competition, maybe you can even do some negotiation on the pricing for your company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of vendors that specialize in the similar type of verticals, and that could be definitely an option for a company that's evaluating software.
Excellent. Okay, so why don't you wrap up by telling us where we can download your guide?
You can go to www.eval-source.com, and you can find the buyer's guide there to download.
Okay, thanks so much. My guest today for our Hangouts on Air session was Keon Prasad from Eval-Source, and I'll put a link to that report in the text below if you're watching this story on itbusiness.ca, and if you're watching on YouTube, come over to the site, and you can see an edited transcript of that on the page below the video, and a link, and I'll also include some links to my other Hangouts on Air. So for itbusiness.ca, I'm Brian Jackson.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.